What's up, everyone? Jeremy Gerard from Mythic Customs here with one of my short customizing tutorial videos. Today's video is an inspirational one, or hopefully it will be an inspirational one. Hopefully it will inspire you to, think about some new customs that you can do for your own collections. And the kinds of customs I'm talking about specifically are sub-races. So if you look at the realm of Mythos, there are a variety of races that the Four Horsemen have given us. We've got, dwarves and goblins, elves and, cat characters, the Jaguarians. We've got all kinds, vampires, skeletons, knights, you name it, we've got an incredible variety of fantasy characters. But what's even cooler is that you can take those existing races and you can build upon them to create variations or sub-races of them to further build out your collections. In the Four Horsemen have already started to do this. Take the orcs, for instance. We first got the orcs in Mythic Legions. We got those typical green-skinned orcs. In Mythic Legions 1.0, we got Urzok, we got Urku, and we got the Orc Legion Builder. We've got other green-skinned orcs over the years, but they've also given us some really cool sub-races, starting with Gorthok, the Shadow Orc. Then we got the Fury Clan Orc. We even got the Purple figure that comes with a purple orc head. Now, they've never said what that purple race of orcs are, but that's pretty darn cool, right? Additionally, we've also got a half-orc from the female barbarian set that came with an alternate head that was an orc painted with fleshlight colors to create a half-orc. So if you look at that, it's already really cool that they're building out these different type of sub-races. Now, this is something that I've done a lot of in my own collection and in my own customizing. I really, really enjoy doing this. I think it's a great way to take the existing parts or even some third-party pieces and integrate them in a really fun way into your collection. So what I'm going to do today is just kind of show you some examples of some of the sub-races that I've done, and hopefully that will get you thinking about some that you can do as well, whether you do some of the same sub-races that I've already done and I'm going to show you, or whether you go off on a, your own kind of path and do something totally different. Let's check it out. So the first ones I'm going to look at here are going to be, I talked about the orcs, right? So let's talk about that. Let's start with that. So I had mentioned that they've given us a half orc already. Well, even before Advent of Decay shipped, that was a custom sub-race that I had actually done for my own collection. Because early on, I wanted to build out kind of those, those orcish ranks a little bit. And this is a super, super easy custom. That's actually one of the cool things about doing sub-races. A lot of them are pretty straightforward customs, just a little bit of painting perhaps. So in this particular case, all I did was take some barbarian style body parts, which, okay, granted, they're definitely hard to find today, but back when I did this during the 1.0 time, they were certainly more readily available. So I took those bare barbarian parts, those bare flesh tone parts, added some armor to it, scuffed it up, made it look a little dirty. But the real big change here is that head. I just took a standard orc head, and that helmet actually does come off. It's not meant to come off. And if you take it off, it's not like you have a head underneath that you could use for display. But you can remove that helmet with a little bit of heat and some determination simply to make the flesh parts underneath it easier to paint. So that's what I did here. I removed that head. I did a little bit of color matching to match that head to that flesh tone to create this half-orc figure. And again, this was done before we actually had a half-orc, a female half-orc in Advent of Decay, but it was great to see that I was already thinking similarly to Four Horsemen Studios in the idea of creating some sub-races. So that's one of the things you can do, and orcs are a great one to do it with. You can create different types of orcs, different types of sub-races. So I mentioned that we've gotten the Shadow Orcs and the Fury Orcs. We even got a purple orc head inside of the Purple Orc figure. Well, one that I really enjoyed doing was taking the Kronoff figure. So the Kronoff figure, which is another one of the PowerCon debuts, that comes with, the blue chest and the blue arm. It's got the skeleton head and it's got an armored head. But I thought, what would be cool if I paint an orc head to match this? And I started thinking, well, why would an orc have blue skin And of course, I landed on the idea of a tundra orc or a frost orc. And certainly other people have done these over the years as well, but this was one that I did quite some time ago. And this is a recipe. If you look back at some of my older episodes, I talk about this recipe, but to kind of break it down here a little bit, this uses some lower arms and legs from a World of Warcraft figure, but those are optional. You certainly don't need to do that. I like what it added to the figure. But the main piece here is taking that blue body, doing a color match on that head to create a new kind of race. And this is one that we haven't seen officially in the line in any way, but I really, really like it. I've always liked those wintry themed kind of, tundra, frost type characters. And, this one worked really, really well to add a new kind of orc to my display. On that note, I told you I like frost orcs and I like frost characters. So let's look at a couple frost goblins. This is a race that I've built out a number of different characters, and here are two of them. So all I did with these are super, super simple, and these are really fun to do. Again, look back at my previous videos and you'll see I do a tutorial on creating a frost orc, but all that this really is a little bit of dry brushing on the goblin figures to add that kind of icy type look. I did integrate some other accessories here on these particular two, but the big thing is using a nice icy blue type paint to get that cool body color, that cool flesh color on the actual goblin heads. And one of the great things is the goblin heads themselves are already so darn expressive. They look great. All I do, I don't have to prime these or anything. The eyes and the teeth are already expertly painted. So all I do is get a nice fine tip brush and I paint very carefully around those teeth, around those eyes. Then I use a larger brush to get the rest of the head. But I just coat right on top of the goblin green to get these nice frost goblins. One of the things I love to do, and those are just a couple examples of some sub races. You could certainly do other kinds of goblin sub races. I've done one that's kind of like a shadow goblin. And coincidentally, if you've seen the recent PowerCon debut figure that's part of All-Stars 4 from a Mythoss, the alternate head that it comes with is a very dark-skinned, black-skinned goblin. So kind of, they haven't said officially what that is yet, but certainly feels like a shadow goblin. So that's very, very cool as well. So you can do that with a variety of different things. You can paint it red and you can create fury goblins. And that's another great segue. So talked about the Fury Clan orcs. One of my favorite things is I remember Cornboy from the studio doing an interview a while back with Legion's Cast, I believe, where they were talking about the Fury Clan and the Fury Clan orcs. And he mentioned that the Fury Clan is not unique to orcs, that it's not just an orcish subrace, but it's actually more of a group of characters that are all under that Fury Clan banner. So that got me thinking, well, just like they took the orc figure and painted it red, what other races can I paint with red skin to make them part of this Fury Clan? And this is, I've done a number of these over the years. Here's just 4 of them, but these are absolutely some of my favorite customs. So here you can see that I've got a Fury Jaguarian, and that's the cat-like figure that actually uses a custom head from Planetary Dog Toys. I've got a Fury Clan Dwarf that uses a custom head from Emil Wickman and Wolf King Customs. And then I've got a pair of Fury Clan Elves that actually use Mythic Legion's heads. So just painting the skin tone on a standard male elf head and on the head that originally came with Thalon Frostbow, you get 2 really, really different looks. That red skin, those piercing yellow eyes, that just, I think, looks like such a wonderful combination, and they look great on display alongside the Fury Clan orcs. Here's another Fury Clan that I did. This is my Fury Clan Vampire, and I actually painted this one on Mythic Conversation show, kind of on a whim. I did one show one night where it was really just me kind of shooting from the hip, just talking and painting live on the air. Didn't really know what I was going to create, just creating. And I had an extra Carpathius head, so I just started painting it with a little bit of dry brush and painting it red, not knowing what it was going to become. But once I was done and I popped it on a Fury Clan Orc body, I just absolutely loved the idea of this Fury Clan vampire. And actually, this character, creating him, is what really made me want to build out my Fury Clan a lot more. Hopefully there's some ideas that you can use there, but let's keep going. I got a few more. So dwarves, people love the dwarves. You know, obviously they've got they're very passionate fans, and dwarves are certainly ones that you can create some different sub races of. So here's a few that I've done. So the first one we have here that's got that kind of iron, that grayish iron-like looking skin, I call him my Ironborn dwarf. And that actually uses a custom head from the Toy Forge, sculpted by Travis Canning. It's part of their Dwarves of Canning Valley series that they do. Love this head a lot. This is one of the first ones I believe that they put out. As soon as I got it and I started painting it, I actually messed it up a little bit. So when you mess something up, an easy way to fix it is to just paint it all black again to start over. But once I did that, I started really liking how it looked with a dark complexion. So I went with that. I allowed myself to follow down that path. And I ended up creating this Ironborn dwarf. I love the way that the metallic steel looking skin matches, or I should say, you know, contrasts the reddish beard and those red eyes. Really cool. And that's a sub race that I've never seen that necessarily in any other kind of fantasy literature. I've certainly seen dark dwarves before, or the Durgar, but this wasn't necessarily meant to be that. This was just meant to be kind of a race that I had created, but certainly similar to those dark dwarves. The other one we have here was a fun little tribute figure that I did a couple years ago for the Christmas season, where I wanted to do a Heat Miser and Cold Miser tribute, and I actually had this head, which is from Kurt Daniels. Kurt had actually, you know, sculpted this or added this on. He had painted this, and I ended up picking it up. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with it, and when I decided to do the Heat Miser, Cold Miser, the idea of making the Heat Miser like a lava dwarf was a really fun idea. I enjoyed that. It seemed really appropriate for the character. So those are a couple examples there. And you can do a ton with dwarves. There's lots of different kind of dwarves. I mean, I've just shown three. I've shown a Fury Clan, an Ironborn, and a Lava Dwarf. So you can have a lot of fun with that, really building out those kind of dwarf characters and making some new variations, some new things that are going to work really well for you. The last one I'm going to show here is another one of those half kind of sub races, and that is a half elf. So I remember years ago reading the Dragonlance books, and there's a character in there called Tanis Half Elven, and as his name implies, he is a half elf, and one of the defining characteristics, or one of the visual characteristics that they always talk about with Tanis Half Elven, is that he's a bearded elf, and elves don't generally have beards. And I know that there have been different depictions of elves over time. I agree. I never imagined my elves having facial hair. So this particular head came from a Marvel Legends Namor figure, and I'm not generally a big fan of using Marvel Legends heads on Mythic Legion's bodies. I feel that they don't really fit, you know, all that well. This one I kind of thought was an exception. I don't know if the Namor head was a little big, and certainly it's on a 2.0 body, which is, you know, a little small than the 1.0, but it really worked well for me. I imagine this character as a half elf adventurer, and it's a really easy customization to do. Just had to Dremel the head a little bit. It fit right on, and the entire rest of his body is just some kit bashing, so combining some different pieces together to create that kind of mismatched looking adventurer type character that I was going for there. So those are a handful of ideas of sub races, and again, they're just a handful of ideas. There's limitless amounts of things that you can do. You've seen that I've already, you know, tapped into some of the existing sub races that the Horsemen have used in terms of like half orc, half elf type idea, or Fury Clan, or Shadow, you know, like the Shadow Orcs and Shadow Goblins. Those are all things they've done. But you can also do things based on other topics like weather. The fact that I did that Frost Orc. You know, you could create characters that are very nature focused. You could create, if you wanted, kind of like a Forest Orc. Kind of seems to go be a contrast with each other, because you usually imagine orcs, not being very forest-like, but even the recent Bryophytus, I said that wrong, Bryophytus figure from All Stars 4, that actually looks very much like a forest orc, right? That's how I'm going to use it. I'm totally going to use that character as kind of an orcish subrace that's very integrated with nature. So a lot of different ideas that you can do there. I've done over time, I've done ice skeletons. I mean, just looking at my collection here, I've done ice skeletons. The elves, you have all the shadow elves, so you can build out other kinds of shadow elves. In terms of the skeletons, I've used, the red skeleton Clavian. I made him a Fury Clan skeleton. The sky's the limit when it comes to these type of things. So if you're looking for some inspiration, my suggestion to you is look at the existing races and say, how can I do a variation on that race? How can I create a cool subrace for this character and add something new to my display? With that, thank you for joining. If you enjoyed the video and videos like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And certainly, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Definitely helps me out, and it will help you be notified whenever a video like this goes live. Until next time, I can't wait to see what you make.